What's up, guys? It's Dr. Uz here from the Dr. Uz Talks YouTube channel, and there hasn't been that much talk on the channel for quite a long time. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to open up the channel to be talking about certain things that I might see in the news, and talk about it and maybe give you guys a little bit of a different slant on it than what you're actually getting in the news. And today I wanted to talk about why your rent is so high, and also why buying houses is so expensive. Now, of course, one of the big subjects there is immigration, and we know increased population, you're going to get increased amount of costs there on a property. But that really pales in significance to the change that has occurred, especially over the last 30 years, in the way that houses are accumulated, the type of people that can buy houses there, and the way that housing stock is distributed amongst the population of the UK. So when you look at kind of pre-Second World War era, right, people would have owned properties, but these would be ridiculously rich individuals, usually who owned factories or businesses in the area, and they would own many of the properties around. And in effect, what they would do is they'll rent out to their workers, right? Now, when I say they own the properties, they legit own those properties. Those properties were in their possession. They had no loans on them, nothing. Their wealth was based on the fact that they owned stupid amounts of land and stupid amounts of property. And what in effect they would do is they would rent out to people who would work in their factories, etc. And it was in their vested interest to do that, because then you could have people who, in effect, they're working for you, so you're paying them, but at the same time, they're paying you to work, they're paying you at the same time to live in houses that you actually own and have no loans on, right? So in effect, you're getting free workers, right? And okay, of course, that's not a great thing, but in that way, it was in their vested interest to keep rents low, because they didn't have anything else to kind of pay for, right? And in effect, all they needed to do was pay back a proportion of the wages that they were paying to people who to work in those factories. Now, this kind of changed around 30 years ago. And I would say in the 90s there, when we had this massive interest rate hike in the UK and around the world, where we ended up with 15% interest rates and stuff like that. The loans that you could get on a property had changed quite significantly, and it basically meant that upper middle class had much more access to housing stock. And the way that they did that was they would put down a smaller amount of money, a deposit in effect, and that deposit would then allow them access to credit from a bank, and that bank would then lend them the rest of the money. They would then go and buy the housing stock, and then they would get rent off that. Now, that was seen by upper middle classes as a way to get basically a housing stock that would then increase in value over time, but it would also be as an asset. So instead of putting your money into stock exchange, etc., you're basically putting your money into housing. And then 15, 20 years later, once your loan has been paid off, and in effect your people who are renting are actually paying off that loan that you've got, you can then sell that asset. You basically pocket the money for that asset, and from your initial deposit, you made a huge profit on top of it, while actually not paying any real extra into the business. Unlike when you're doing something like the stock exchange, where you're having to constantly put money in. Okay, it accumulates, right? But you're constantly putting money in to build that pot. You're not really doing that when you're buying a house. You're getting somebody else to pay your mortgage. And that's the way that it stayed for quite a long time, until the 2000s. And this is when I got involved in property, when I started buying my own properties, when I qualified from university and stuff. And around that time, it significantly changed. And basically what happened there was that people were getting access to loans left, right, and center, right? If you could prove a little bit of income, you would get crazy amount of loans given there to you from the bank for much lower deposits. And then what would happen is that you could buy a property. Now, the mentality of people buying those properties changed considerably from the 90s, right? And it's only the span of 10, 15 years, but the mentality changed significantly to that of like, I want to make not only an asset that I can sell in 15 years time, but I want to make a profit every single time the person who is renting is paying me money for rent. So say for example, the mortgage on your house is 800 pound a month, for example, as a buy-to-let mortgage. Sorry, it's a bike. The bike going past. Say for example, your mortgage was 800 pound a month, right? What you would then do is you would basically go and buy a property, and you would then charge 1,200 pound a month to the person who's renting, because what's going to happen is you're making your profit on top of your mortgage payments. Okay, so you make your mortgage payments, they're paying the gas, the electricity, the council tax. You don't have to worry about any of that, right? They're paying the gas, electricity, council tax, but you're making a profit on top. And what happened is now that profit is spiraled and spiraled and spiraled, right? And it's basically got to a stage there where people are like, how can I maximize my monthly profit while also gaining an asset that I'm going to sell in 15 to 20 years time? And everybody is doing exactly the same thing because of market value, this nonsense kind of idea of, this is what somebody is renting and the cost is down the road, so we need to also be charging that there as well. You basically find that everybody is doing the same thing. So if one guy is charging 1,200 pound but his mortgage is 800 pound, well then the same equivalent house down the road has to be charging 1,200 pounds. So then what happens with a bigger house that was originally charging 1,200 pound? Well, they better now charge 1,500 pound or 1,600 pounds. They might have a slightly bigger mortgage, and because of that they were charging 1,200 pound initially, but no, we got to now make profit every single month. So this has now changed into an asset builder, right? Which is what initially what houses were, where you could basically go buy a house, build your assets, right, and then sell it later on down the line. And that's going to pay for your pension or for your retirement or for you to tail down when you're older, because you can't do as much work as you would do when you're younger. That has now changed to being, I want to have financial freedom, as it were. I want to be free to have basically somebody pay me every single month just to live, right? And this is crazy. This is crazy because this can never end, right? Because what's going to happen is one day these interest rates is going to rise. And remember I talked about the 90s where the interest rates are crazy. Imagine this interest rate increases to 5%, 10%, 15%, right? The guys who have bought these, guys and girls who have bought these houses, who are now renting to other people, they're not going to accept the fact that, oh, wait a second, our profit margin is going to go down. They're now going to pass that on to other people, plus also their additional bit, because they've been told by these idiots all over flipping YouTube and you know, and social media that, oh, you can make a crap ton of money by being a social media, you know, basically, but from some kind of person who's telling you all about how they own 15 properties and they've got financial freedom, blah, blah, blah. You can also have financial freedom by owning these properties and passing not only your mortgage on to the person who's renting, but also make a profit on top of that. And this is exponential. This is just going to increase and increase and increase. And you can see that over what's going on. You can go, if you've got a decent amount of money that you would have invested into the stock market, say 50k that I would have invested, I can go get a buy-to-let mortgage now. I don't have to worry about that 50k. That 50k is secure. I can also get money every single month from the person who's renting the house, right? So what this does is this puts a class of individuals who never really would have had access to this kind of thing there before, now giving them access to this, because instead of getting some dividends paid by companies and much smaller amounts of money, they have carte blanche to charge you whatever the hell they want. And what then happens is one person down the road charges it, the other person down the other side also charges it there as well. Anyway, guys, that's the 10-minute limit. And I'm going to keep all of these videos there to 10 minutes, around 10 minutes. Let me know what you think about that. And if you like this kind of content, subscribe if you can. And I'm going to get up more Dr. Uz talks there for you next time.